Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So, just recently, it was all over the YouTube streets, if you will, that this is allegedly, I don't know if it's 100% true or not, though. Jeannie Mai was trying to contest the divorce with Jeezy and fight to save their marriage. Now, it was also said allegedly on the YouTube streets that this dude was out here getting this paperwork together for the divorce back in like June, like I said, allegedly, and that he was real sneaky about it. He kind of blindsided her allegedly. And if it is the truth, then that is very petty and immature. Like, I don't understand why people can't work through issues like adults. Like, you're adults, not children. And even if you were children, that still wouldn't be acceptable. But work through problems like adults. Don't play silly games. Don't be immature. Don't be petty. Don't do stuff like this. Like I said, if that is the case. But anyways, people are still confused as to why the two of them are getting a divorce. People have literally divided themselves, like they often do on the internet, into sides, going back and forth saying, no, it was Jeezy that was in the wrong. No, it was Jeannie that was in the wrong. And I was really nice in the previous video that I made about these two individuals. But we're going to have a serious adult conversation about this relationship that was all over and up in social media. Now, people can say, oh, well, you don't know them personally, but I can say the same thing to these people trying to paint these two individuals like they're these innocent souls that didn't see this coming. Now, remember in the previous video, if you did watch it, that I said just because somebody has children for a previous relationship, they have multiple children for multiple individuals, or they have a failed relationship, that they had before they got to you, does not mean that they are unmarriageable and that they're not worthy of pursuing for a relationship. Although obviously it's only commonsensical and wise to observe patterns in people's behavior, especially where their actions are concerned. Now, everybody knows or should know by now that Jeezy has like 3 baby mamas and 3 babies by those different baby mamas, if I'm not mistaken, and he adopted a child, so he has like 4 children outside of his relationship with Jeannie Mai. Clearly, he has displayed a pattern of not being able to settle down or commit to somebody. All 3 of these women, these 3 alleged women, he thought enough of them to sleep with them, get them pregnant, but not enough of them to commit to them. So what does that tell you? Or what should it tell you by just looking at it? That he has a history, like I said, of not committing to women, and that he has no longevity in his relationships. One could even say that whenever something goes wrong in one relationship, instead of actually working on it, like how people should in their relationships, he just moves on to another woman, which he feels like he has the right to do because he's Jeezy, he has money, he could get access to any woman he wants. And I know people think that that's a flex, but it's actually a very toxic trait because once again, it feeds into you not actually staying in a relationship and working on the problems. You just bouncing and going get somebody else. So you're going to do the same with anyways once you run into something. Obviously, that's not good, and it keeps you from being able to settle down with somebody. There have also been people who have been alleging that he spoke poorly about his previous partners. And I know people are real quick to throw dirt on, their exes and talk about them like a dog. But that's never something good that you should do or be caught doing, especially on the internet, because I've said this 1,000 times. These videos are not going anywhere. Once you put them on the internet, they're stuck there. And also, if you have kids with that person, the last thing you want is for your child to grow up and see you dogging their other parent on social media. For them to see that and say, oh my God, dad was really out here dragging mom all up and down the YouTube streets. But people don't think about that in the moment. Once again, they have this attitude, this mentality that they could just do whatever they want, and they don't think about the consequences. But when the consequences come for their raggedy behinds, they want to boo-hoo and make themselves seem like the victim. No sir, no ma'am, deal with your consequences. Now let's talk about Jeannie Mai. Must I go over the dark meat, white meat comment that she said before, which I mentioned was very disrespectful and actually quite racist to both black men and white men? So not only clearly was she showing y'all her mindset, he knew this. Jeezy knew what she said. I know he heard it. I know he saw the video, and he still chose to marry her. So somebody help me understand why I should feel anything for him, knowing that you were entering into a relationship with a woman who only thought of you as meat, as a fetish. Low-key, she was really showing y'all, like I said, the very racist and nasty and disgusting mindset she was raised on, which is you go and get somebody white because clearly they're the privileged ones in society for their money, and then you make one of the blacks your second option only if they have a lot of money and they're rich, if you can deceive one of them into falling for you. That white meat, dark meat comment was not the only red flag that she was waving. Everybody has been bringing up her 10-year plus relationship with the white guy that she was married to before him, how they fell out about how he wanted to have a child and she did not. She brought up some very traumatic things, which is unfortunate, that happened to her in her relationship. And I believe, honestly and seriously, that it's not that she didn't want to have kids. She just didn't want to have kids with him. Having kids is one of those subjects that people must talk about. Like, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to talk about before they get married, because it is unfair to those kids to bring them into this world knowing one or the other of y'all don't want them or didn't want them, and then y'all get a divorce, and now the kids had to get drugged through the mud because y'all were goofy and couldn't come to a conclusion before y'all got involved in all of this. And I know it's not that simple, because sometimes people might be on the same page, and then when they get married, they decide, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, I don't want to have kids anymore. Or one person could deceive their partner into believing that they wanted to have kids only to marry them, and then after they say I do, expose how they really feel. So I am understanding of, and I am acknowledging that it's not always black and white. It's not always easy to do. But like I said, some of these people just don't be talking about this stuff before they get into committed relationships, which is morbidly stupid to do. And like I said, a disservice to those kids. But they came to the conclusion that they both wanted to have a child. It is my understanding that that's the case. And they had their child, and they seemed like they were both very happy with their child. Then many people were bringing up the cultural aspect that they just kind of overlooked, I guess, or didn't think anything about, which is why I've said this before in a previous video. Anytime you get married, there's a serious thing that you've got to work on. Marriage can work. It does work when the people who do get involved with a marriage actually do what they're supposed to do. But even more so, you have a responsibility when it's an interracial relationship, because there's a lot of cultural differences that are tied up in those different races that you have to get introduced to. You got to get used to. You got to, make some sacrifices here and there. And you're not ready to do that, then you don't need to marry them. And I don't think he was ready to do that. Let's just be honest. Obviously, clearly, in Jeannie Mai's culture, not only is the husband supposed to take care of his immediate family, which is his wife and his direct children, but he's also supposed to take care of his wife's family. I don't think he was ready to handle that. And apparently, allegedly, Jeannie Mai's mother is very overbearing. Apparently, allegedly, she was all up in their business. And apparently, allegedly, he was also taking care of Jeannie Mai's brother. Anybody who has been married or who's been connected to somebody who has been married knows that sometimes the in-laws can be very intrusive, especially if they are people like Jeannie Mai's mother. It's all fun and games until it's not. It's all singing "We Are a Family" until one of them pisses you off, but you still have the responsibility of taking care of them because that's what you signed up for when you married her because of her culture. Another thing people have been pointing out is she mentioned out of her own mouth, she admitted out of her own mouth that she has a temper, that it ran in her family. If I'm not mistaken, her grandfather, her mother, and then her. She likes to pop off at the mouth. And she even admitted there was a few times she popped off at Jeezy. And he even said, hey, you need to back up. I don't know who you think you're talking to. And it's real funny because that's the same thing that they say about a certain demographic of women that seems to always turn out to be true for everybody else. And the sad thing about her admitting finally that she has a temper, she admitted also out of her own mouth that she didn't even realize that she had one until her second marriage. Now, like I said, I'm trying to be extensive in grace and mercy, but how raggedy do you have to be to go through a whole 11-year relationship without realizing that your temper issues was a part of the problem? So you mean to tell me out of 11 years, you couldn't figure out that you had some issues that you needed to work on? You can say what you want to. Oh, everybody makes mistakes. You can't afford to make those kind of mistakes when it comes to a relationship. You wasted so much time, so much of your partner's time, once again, because you had a temper that you claim you didn't know that you had. Nobody has time to waste like that. Are you kidding me? You're an adult. Please grow up and mature. Speaking of her previous relationship, that's another red flag that we can talk about. Her constantly bad-mouthing her ex-husband on the reel, talking about this man like he was just this abusive monster in the relationship. Come to find out, she had done some pretty abusive stuff too, allegedly. They had brought him on at some point in time, and she was going on about how upset and I guess annoyed she was whenever he had got sick once, and that his mother was there trying to nurse him back to good health, which really was something that she should have been doing. And he basically said, well, you know what? All I wanted was compassion, and I figured, if I couldn't get it from you, at least I could get it from my mom. Do y'all realize how horrible that makes her sound? How lacking in compassion that makes her sound? And once again, people were boo-hooing, oh boo-hoo, Jeannie this, Jeannie that. She doesn't deserve this. When this is the kind of stuff that she was doing, allegedly behind closed doors. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, there was one episode where his now wife had to address her, basically tell her to stop talking about him. She had his name in her mouth in such a negative way, so much that his now wife had to basically send her a message and say, first of all, stop bad-mouthing my husband, because what you don't want me to do is release the receipts of all the stuff that you did in the relationship. You didn't tell them that on the real while you were sitting up here talking about Freddie like he was a dog. Don't make me release the receipts. The reason why she said that she didn't do it was because she was trying to remain cordial, but low-key, the petty side of me, the immature side of me, wanted her to release those receipts so we could see the real Jeannie Mai for who she is. And the funny part about that is, I don't remember her saying much about Freddie after that happened. Like I said before in previous videos, where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. But you'll only be able to see it if you're not so busy worshiping them, making them out to be these perfect people and putting them so far on a pedestal that you don't think that they can do any wrong. There were also allegations that Jeannie Mai was walking their daughter to school. Y'all, I can't express how absolutely stupid and dangerous that was. If I was blessed enough to be able to be with somebody who had as much money as Jeezy was and was actually a good person and respected me and loved me for me, first of all, I wouldn't be working. Being a wife and a mother would be my full-time job. And second of all, he wouldn't have to worry about me making stupid decisions like that, because he would have to pay somebody not only to be our bodyguards 24/7, but for somebody to chauffeur us from point A to point B to point C to point Z, wherever we go. Because trust me, I would take full advantage of all of those amenities that he could afford. Not just because he could afford to, but because I would know that it was the right thing to do. It was a safer option to take. That was obviously there. You know, you got women out here who wish that they had husbands that could afford to chauffeur them around in protection, but have to walk their children in dangerous neighborhoods without a choice. And here she is choosing to do something silly like that. I also wouldn't be out walking my child to school, because he's made it clear, apparently, allegedly, that he didn't like it when she did that. So I would simply also not do it out of respect for him and his wishes. But anyways, wrapping up this very mature adult conversation about relationships, and this relationship in particular, it was real funny because whenever they first got together, a lot of people tried to make them the poster children, if you will, for what a good relationship, a perfect relationship is supposed to look like. They really tried to paint the two of them like this perfect couple. They put them on a pedestal, and not only did they put them on the pedestal, they were real quick to jump on that train of, well, women, if you were more submissive like Jeannie Mai, you would have a high-value husband like Jeezy too, when she wasn't even being submissive, apparently, allegedly. She did make a comment on one of her talk shows about wanting to be more submissive, and she did admit that she was the alpha female type. She liked being in control, but like I said, that she wanted to be more submissive for Jeezy. But just to say that you want to be submissive is not enough. That means absolutely nothing if you're not actually willing to put in the work and do it. You can talk a good game, but nobody cares about your raggedy words. We want to see your actions. Also, another thing specifically about that, people keep forgetting on the internet that we live in the age of grifters and panderers. There are people who will get on here and say what they know people want to hear them say just to gain support. Like I said, whenever she was using the word submissive, the way she was using it, it was like a calling card to all of the crazy people who like to be crazy concerning that particular subject. Like I said, I don't put past anything these celebrities to just say whatever they know is going to get them the support and the backing that they want, especially from the certain demographic that they're aiming it towards. Now, it's funny because I was on the internet. A lot of people were saying, oh, she's contesting the divorce and fighting for the marriage. A lot of people were trying to call people stupid and crazy, like I said, in allegiance to this woman. Like, again, what cross did she die on for your sins? But anyways, saying that people were crazy for thinking that she was trying to fight for the marriage. Turns out that's exactly what she's trying to do. And quite frankly, I think it's mostly because if he actually does go through with this divorce, which it seems like he's on the way to do so, she's going to have to eat a couple of her words. Now, did she maybe possibly develop something for him other than a fetish or lust that she entered the relationship clearly with over these years, and that's why she's fighting, trying to make up for whatever she might have done wrong? Like I said, I believe both of them did goofy stuff. It's very possible, but at this point, it's a little too late now because, like I said before, observe the patterns. Don't put yourself in a position to be a victim of those patterns. I honestly do think that their relationship could have actually been something good, despite how I talked about it and the way that I spoke about it, if they would have actually, like I've said 1,000 times, entered into the relationship based on the right things, based their marriage on a foundation of the right things. And I also believe that their marriage could have been saved from this happening if they would have just went to counseling and worked through the problems instead of just him calling it quits. But like I said, observe the patterns. I keep saying that. Clearly he has a history of not working through problems, just noticing that, oh, it's going a direction I don't want it to. Instead of working on it, just dipping and going his separate way because he feels like he has the right to do that. And he doesn't have to actually commit himself to anything that could be good, that could turn out good. Like I always say, my heart goes out to the children, the babies, the kids, because they didn't ask to be involved in all of this. Hopefully everything turns out all right for them. And one last thing I wanted to throw in just to be extra petty, don't ever think that the grass is greener on the other side, because 9 times out of 10, and what I mean by 9 times out of 10, I mean 10 times out of 10, it's usually not greener on the other side. But anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all have a blessed day.